Hello YouTube, hello fans, this is Daniel, back again for another video, this time looking at the placement Venus in Cancer. So what happens when the planet Venus transits through the warm, affectionate, nurturing nature of the constellation Cancer? And how does it affect the individual in their natal chart? Well, as you may suspect, as many of you are who watch me are very adept at the art and science of astrology, that when Venus makes her way through Cancer, much of her natural energy is going to come through. Venus, of course, is our planet of, love, desire, our pleasure, planet of movies, of cinema, of, decadence in some cases. Um, but when she moves through Cancer, her love, her pleasure, her desire takes on a very practical approach. In the sign of Cancer, of course, her love is going to experience a sense of warmth. It's going to experience, a sense of, devotion, loyalty to the family in particular, um, to children. There's going to be a sincerity there that may not be there with other signs. There's going to be an attachment to the home, to familiar surroundings. There's going to be a need, a desire to become an influential figure, with a very small group of people, namely the biological family. But this family can take on, any form. It's really just a need to be needed and to, in that way, need others, to need you, as would befit, the sign of Cancer's desire to nurture, along with love, other human beings, within their sphere of affection. Um, so as Venus moves through the sign of Cancer, she does some interesting things to men and women, on a different kind of level. In a man's chart, Venus in Cancer, it's said to be kind of the quintessential mama's boy of the natal chart. When I see this placement in a man's chart, not to be disparaging or anything, this is kind of the projection that I get. And mainly because, of course, when we think of Cancer, we think of the mother. Cancer, the moon, the fourth house, all of this is indelibly tied to the mother. And so in the early childhood of these people, of boys and girls really, it just resonates differently with men than with women, and it evolves differently as we move from childhood into adulthood. But really, what it is the placement brings with it, from a pure standpoint, not talking about different aspects associated with it that can change and alter the situation, but with the placement itself, the mother is typically a very powerful force in the person's life, both for men and women. And by powerful, I mean, she's typically a positive force. She's typically someone who, is going to be looking at trying to get you to do your best, to be your best. This can resonate differently in different people. This energy can be, if the energy is pure, if it doesn't have any aspects, to Mars or Saturn or some other kind of configuration, it can come across as very warm. It can come across as very, very affectionate. And it can be a very holistic kind of love, that a mother has for her child. And this, of course, can be the native chart holder, or it can be, in relation to the native chart holder's, experiences with their mother, or with a female presence, I should say. It doesn't always necessarily need to be the biological mother. It can just be, a female presence that's in the life of the person. But nonetheless, there is the sense that the mother is important in the life of this person. As I said, for a man, this can develop into, what's called, mama's boy kind of situation, where the man is firmly attached to his mother, If for the women out there, who are married, or in a relationship with a man who has this placement, I can tell you right now that, barring other aspects or placements, this guy is going to be, very attached to his mother. So, you better get to, learn to love your mother-in-law, because she's going to be there, in his life for probably the duration. In a woman's chart, it's a little bit different. In a woman's chart with this placement, mom was really someone that was there for you, in different ways. She was the one that had your back. She was the one, sewing together that prom dress, that ripped, at the last minute. She's the one helping you with the wedding dress. She's the one, who's, helping you with the bake sale, when you were in Girl Scouts or whatever. Mom was there in that way. And so, this energy, as it moves from parent to child, generates that kind of warm energy. It generates that kind of, desire to be affectionate in a holistic way. Because of course, mom didn't get any, real monetary rewards, for, helping you bake cookies, or for sewing that prom dress, or helping you pick that wedding dress. You know, Other Venus placements, are going to have, either monetary, and by that I mean financial, or some other kind of string attached to, why they love and how they love and who they love. So there's going to be considerations there. But with Venus and Cancer, there really are no considerations. The desire is really to just love and to be loved back. This is really one of the more holistic kinds of loves that, is in the zodiac, really. And it's really something to be appreciated, as a lot of placements do not have this. With many placements in Venus, there is considerations, there are consequences, and there are things that can render that love non-existent, or at least diminished, depending upon the chart holder. But in the sign of Cancer, it is true, it is pure, it is good, and it is very, very warm. And if you are somebody with this placement, you know what I mean. You know how you express love. And if you happen to know someone who has this placement, who's in your life, you're going to see that come through. You're going to see that really shine through, if you know them on an intimate level, where Venus is going to be expressed to you in their life. And so really, there's a love of family. There's a love of familiar surroundings. There's going to be a desire to have a stable home. There's going to be a desire to not really attain great wealth, I want to say, but to attain a sense of security as it is derived from financial security. Meaning that, if it takes, $50,000 a year to be secure, then that's what Venus and Cancer wants. If it takes 80,000, then that's what they want. They're never purely, seeking, um, gains, or anything in that way, in the way that Venus relates to pleasure through wealth, purely for the sake of having wealth. They don't attach any security to that per se. You'll hear other astrologers say that, and I'll tell you, flat out, that is incorrect. Really, what it is that Venus is looking for, in the sign of Cancer, she's looking for the desire to be comfortable. She's looking for the desire to be, to be secure in her home, to know that, the debt collector is not coming, to know that, Jane and Johnny can go away to college, and, they can be okay there, and, we can pay for it. And it's okay that, the car payment's being made, all that kind of stuff. They're if they're meeting their bills, then they're happy. They're not necessarily looking for, great wealth, as, so some other signs typically are, some other signs, in this planet, find great joy and pleasure and passion, in the attainment of wealth for the sake of wealth. But this is not one of those placements. This placement wants to be secure, period. When we think about Venus in Cancer, we have to look at the way that, it manifests in a man and a woman. It's a little bit different. So if I could take the phrase "I love you" and I were to apply it to a man, I would tell women who are in relationships with this kind of man that when a man with Venus in Cancer says "I love you," what he's really saying is, I want to have a family with you. You're the one. When a woman says it, what she's saying is, I want you to be the father of my child. And, in a similar vein, they're the one that you want, that, they want to be with. Um, to use these words as a Venus in Cancer means that you have accepted someone on such a level that you have, in a sense, opened up. The claws have come down, the shell has opened, and, the soft inner core of the crab is available to that person. And, you can think about this in a lot of different ways, but really, the simplest way to think about it is that from the beginning, the crab, concerned with security, concerned with protection, is looking to guard his love, is looking to guard, his or her passions, his or her inner self. And so, this kind of Venus comes across slowly. This kind of Venus comes across, in kind of a shifty kind of way almost. You can imagine, the crab that, walks sideways. And, this is kind of how they do things with love. They kind of sidestep things. I mean, they don't just kind of come out and say, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? They don't jump into it. But truly, their affections are there, their love is there, and they want to be sure that their love is going to be reciprocated. So they'll do, little tests here and there, to kind of decipher where the other person is. And, after, date one, date two, date three, they get a little bit closer, they get a little bit closer, until, they use those three words. And once they use those three words, I can say with a lot of confidence that, you have moved from a position of, hey, this person's all right, to, hey, I'd really like to spend my life with this person. And, really to them, the emphasis of what I'm trying to say is that for them, love is something that is very important. And, they don't make whimsical decisions about the subject. I mean, they're very sincere about their desire to love. And, once they dedicate themselves to you, the Cancerian sense of loyalty and sense of steadfast guarding of oneself, and now, this person who their affections have been endeared to, remains true and remains pure, especially if, this becomes a childbearing relationship, as it were. I mean, the Venus and Cancer person finds it very hard to break away from someone whom they have offspring with. And this can manifest, in different ways. And sometimes, the way this manifests is a little bit negative for the chart holder. I mean, someone who has this placement, you may feel a difficulty in removing yourself from unhealthy relationships simply because you have attached yourself to them. And simply because, you have spent so much time and you have so much history, another thing that Cancers love, and you have these memories, you have, all of this, all these experiences with this person, and really there's a desire for the Cancer, the Venus in Cancer especially, to try to make this thing work, to try to get things to work out, and so you're willing to put up with a lot of abuse. You're willing to put up with a lot of, things that you shouldn't, especially given the fact that, this is a very holistic, warm, sincere love that really deserves that in return. And, the people that cannot deliver it to you, you have to break yourself away from them, and you have to seek greener pastures, as it were. But this can be a sticking point for this placement. And, anyone out there, who watches my videos, who happens to have this placement, I'd really like to hear from you, because this placement can be tough. It can be tough to let go of people and of places, of things, that are attached to negative experiences, simply because they are experiences that you have had within the sphere of things that Venus controls, your love, your pleasure, your desires. I mean, the Cancer in this, with this planet, makes us a little bit too attached to things that are unhealthy for us. And that can come, once again, in many forms, not necessarily even people, but just in things that really aren't good for us. And, when that happens, it can create a devastating effect on the chart holder as a whole and affect other areas of their life. And so with that, what I had wanted to, before I got off on this tangent, what I had wanted to say was that, there's really a need and a desire for a, quiet and comfortable surrounding. I mean, this is a sign that, wants to have everything, all their ducks in a row, everything, squared away, they want to be able to be content. They want to be able to be, they want to be able to feel good about, what's around them. They want to know what's around them. They want to have a sense that, this is familiar to me, that everything is stable and secure. And, with that, they do experience a little bit of inertia. Cancer is a sign known for inertia. It's a sign known for getting a little too comfortable, with, things that, are okay, although they may not be the best. And this is something that, they'll have to work through. And this can manifest, in different ways, especially with regard to love. You can be somebody, who is, with somebody who, they've got some bad habits. And, you can say, well, been with them so long. Yeah, I just kind of overlook it. It's just not an issue to me because I just try to ignore it. And this is something that can be unhealthy too, because you really have to consider your own happiness in relation to yourself and in relation to your own desires. It has been said that men with this placement, and I don't want to make a blanket statement, but I do want to put this out there, that men with this placement typically are going to prefer a woman who is, who is buxom, because of course Cancer, it rules the heart, it rules, the chest, it rules, kind of that, that fertility mechanism in the zodiac. And so a man with this placement is said to be someone who is attracted to that aspect of a woman. It's going to be, a woman who is a little bit full figured, definitely full figured up top, but just all around. They're looking for that those signs of fertility. And so, the thin kind of athletic build kind of woman is going to be a little bit off-putting to them. They're not going to be into, that, aggressive kind of air that, some women with different placements might have. And so, you, as a man with this placement, you may find yourself infatuated with, with plus size women, with obviously, as I said before, with women who are, very, endowed up top. And, this is perfectly normal. Excuse me. This is perfectly normal for this placement. By virtue of that, women on the opposite end, typically, and this is just kind of the astrological lore, are going to be attracted to men, who on the one hand, they have that sense of the family man, you know what I mean? They have that, I don't, almost like a Peter Griffin, from Family Guy or something like that. Somewhere between him and I don't even know. It's hard to explain. But for a woman, there's going to be that desire to have the combination of a guy who is who is set, who maintains a secure home, who values security in the home, who values, being emotional, who values, being affectionate, and, yet who can maintain, someone who they can rely upon to be their anchor, to be their rock, so to speak. This is kind of what the Venus in Cancer female is going to be looking for. On the whole, this is a great placement for Venus. This kind of energy for Venus is really going to be something that, Venus can express. And so you in your own life, should be able to express this Venus very richly. And as I said before, there's a strong need and a desire to be with people who allow this to happen. So once again, I would definitely, if I had this placement, I don't. But what I tell people who have this placement is, to really try and steer clear of, those edgy kind of, wild Venus placements. You want to, and there's nothing wrong with any placement. I just want to say that again, But the combinations are kind of what make things a little bit difficult. And so those Venus Aries, those Venus Aquarians, those Venus Sagittarians, these guys aren't going to be your best pick. And they're not going to be your best pick of Venus and Gemini too. I should just throw that in. These aren't going to be your best pick because, once again, they're looking for that edge. They're looking for that that fire. They want to have, some uncertainty in their life. That's what they love. That's what they, get off on, so to speak. But, Venus in Cancer really doesn't appreciate those things. Venus in Cancer appreciates, what is familiar. They appreciate people who are loyal. They appreciate sincerity, they appreciate warmth, and they appreciate dedication. They're looking for that happy home. They're looking for, that, 2.5 children and a picket fence and, a happy, wonderful life, and there's really nothing wrong with that. Really that should be the way it is for all these signs. But, truly, every sign, in Venus has its own quirks, its own wants, its own needs, its own desires. In the sign of Cancer, they're a lot more traditional. They're a lot more of what you might expect from a Venus who, has, finished her days out partying and now wants to, settle down and really just have, a nice quality time with with a husband, or in the case of a man, with a wife, and children, who she can rear in her way, and, who she can have, just a great peaceful existence with. Um, so for the most part, what I want to say about this placement, before I go, is that, once again, if you have this placement, you'll want to really take to heart, your relationship with your mother. There can be experiences with people, who have this placement where, the relationship with mom wasn't all that great. And so, that hurts you. That makes, how can I say this? That makes your life experience not as rich as it could be, because you take so much from the feminine aspects of your life, whether you're a man or a woman. And so there's a really strong need to, connect to the mother. And so, there's a lot that can be said about this placement in regards to the relationship to mom. And, there really should be, unless, of course, there's extenuating, circumstances that, don't permit it. There really should be a motivation to, connect with mom, to learn from mom, and to really enhance, and, promote, that dynamic, because karmically, the way astrology works, that dynamic will repeat itself in your own life, with your own children. Typically, if you have this placement, it has been said. And so, as an astrologer, I would caution and advise people, with this placement, to really view themselves as, receptors for the family. Really to be the anchor of the family, especially from the female side. There's really less control and less, incentive, on the male side. But definitely, with this placement, you want to be that representative of the family. And, you want to be that person that, looks at, the family unit, even the extended family unit, as being something that, you can take an active role in developing and maintaining, and in, allowing to, get stronger. And, you will get a karmic boost from this, and you will experience, a lot of joy that comes from this. This placement really promotes and shines on people who benefit it in this way, and who reflect the energy that is within them as it relates to Cancer and the fourth house. Venus, although not exalted in the sign of Cancer, as I said before, does extremely well. And, her love and her desire to bring peace and harmony to the home and to those within her inner circle, is something that you want to try to manifest in your own life. Number one, because it is within you if you have this placement. And number two, because, barring, as I said, aspects, or conflict, from, tough, rough and tough planets, that promote chaos, Uranus, Saturn, Mars, to name a few. Um, you're really going to want to, look to this placement and say, I mean, how can I enhance myself by looking at this placement and, determining how I can be a role model, how I can be a really a giver of, motherly affection, even in a man's chart. You can be that receptor, within the family unit, and you can help to build that strong, secure foundation for not only yourself, but for, children in the future and for, generations to come. So, this can be a very powerful placement that's often overlooked. So this has been my analysis of the placement Venus in the sign of Cancer. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about your own Cancer Venus placement, leave them in the comments below. You can email me directly. I love to answer. And I will see you next time for another video. Thank you and good night.